Hi and welcome to Linus Napoleonic Shipyard. Today we're going to revisit an old video format, one that I did back in 2023, actually one of the first I uploaded on my channel, where I did my fleet lineup, my British fleet lineup. At that time I was focusing a lot on the models, like the historical ships that the models were based on and so on. I'm not going to do that so much today because many of these are in my ship shorts and so on, so if you want to find out more about the history, you can find that there. So we're mostly going to go through maybe some stuff I learned along the way. It's been 2 years, so what did I learn? What do I make different now? And some of these models are newer, some are older, and so on. We're going to start with HMS Surprise, which is by far my most liked ship, the ship I like the most, and that's because it's in that movie Master and Commander, right? So here you see some of the, I just showed quickly my first version of Surprise, and that was a Warlord model that I did. That was probably back in 2023. And this is my second version of the HMS Surprise, which I did, I think, one and a half year ago. I had those sails really green like the Warlord ones because I wanted to match the fleet. That's not the way I would do it nowadays, and there's a lot of things I'm going to go into more of those details along the way, but this is the second version of it, and I mean the rigging is quite intricate. I started to use at this point already some of those the running rigging, doing a little bit more with the running rigging, and I've used I've used EZ line, so you see they're all pretty tense still. I don't like it like this anymore for my running rigging. I want them to like have a little bit of hang and so on, not be completely tensioned, all of them. So at this point this is now an older model. Of course that's the one I have, because the new one that I'm going to show soon is actually a model that I made for someone else. So this is my latest version of the HMS Surprise, and that's made for a friend in the UK. So I'm not going to get to keep this, but I learned a lot doing it, and I'm definitely going to make a version for myself of the HMS Surprise for sure. Here I've switched to, and this is the latest, I actually got that from James, a friend in the United States. He suggested it to me to use silk span. So I've used 4 layers of silk span in this model for the sails, and I really like it. It gives that translucency, like the light would shine through, but still you can do some tinting and some detailed work on them. I use some fine liner. I think I learned that from, I can't remember the name of the guy, but I saw a guy do that, and I was like, oh, that's really nice. You learn stuff from other people in this hobby, right? I see here in the video also the base, they don't come off really well in this light. I had a little bit too strong light, as you can see on the sails as well. It does look honestly a lot better in reality, and you can check my other video where we did that playthrough to see how it would actually look, the sea base on this. These are a little bit more textured, the sea bases, than I would normally do, just because they go into some kind of half diorama. So with this HMS Surprise together with Acheron. But here all the rigging and also on the Acheron is all made from brass. So here you have the Acheron, and every rigging detail here on this one. I had some EZ line, a really thin rubber line, didn't like the result on the Surprise, but for the Acheron everything is brass. So all the lines you see are brass. Standing rigging, running rigging, and so on. Worked a little bit more on the highlight and shading on the ensign and the pennant, and on the sails. I made them look a little bit like suppose the French sails. And this is also that I got from another guy on, I think, I can't remember where I saw it, but you know, you get inspired when other people, someone else do something really nice, and you figure, oh, that looks kind of nice, I'm gonna try that out in my model. Of course, zooming in all the way, this stuff is really small. I mean, as you see, I've put crew in there, and I've half glued, or like some sail is furled, and that's actually all of it silk span. So those are actual furled little pieces of silk span sail. Some of the boats on deck there, tied down, not tarped, because they're half ready for being taken off and so on. Some side davit and so on. Tried to make this ship look a little bit like the Acheron in the movie, which is completely fictional ship. It's based on the Conquille frigate hull. I was going to use an American hull, but I ended up doing the Conquille, since it's an 18-pounder frigate. They say that in the movie, and an American would be 24, right? So here, maybe, if it's one of the bigger ones. We have my latest version of the HMS Victory. And the Victory is a ship that I've actually also done 3 versions of. First was from Artist Hobby, I think, and then I did a Turner hull, and this time around it's actually from a kit, so that's from the one I did the unboxing on. There is in a video about the pennants and the ensigns and so on, where I went deep diving into that, so that you can find the entire build of that. And most of the rigging for this one as well is actual brass. So the running rigging and so on is brass wire on this one. If I remember it right. Yeah. I made it, ran it a little bit straighter. Or maybe I still use, no, it's brass. It's brass wire. A little bit thicker diameter brass wire, that's it. Try to rig it more like an historical ship. And here the sails on the Victory, they're actually made from papyrus, which is another material I've been experimenting on. I actually found that on a second-hand store, so I figured, okay, some papyrus. A little bit of a spinny, and now we're into the unrated vessels, as you can see. So these are the ones I currently have. The rest has been sold off to other people and so on. So we have the brig, that's the HMS Courier. And then we have a topsail schooner, and that's the HMS Pickle. They're kind of based on historical, most of my ships. And this is the Navy cutter, and that's called HMS Entreprenant. It's stolen from the French. And then a lugger, another steel, HMS Coureur. So they take ships from the French, just put HMS in front and keep the name. You can put a lot of detail also in this small. Later I'm going to show you for the scale and why I end up mostly using Turner nowadays, or I also have some others that I'm using. These are not only Turner models, but I like the fact that the scale is more like true. So the brig will look very small compared to the Victory, for instance. And they play a big role in the way I like to play my games nowadays, because I don't always play Black Seas nowadays like I used to. Some of the games that we are playing are actual beat quarters games, right? And that's single ship actions mostly. And then a small ship like this will have a lot more definition. As if you follow my channel, you probably know by now. So I really enjoy that part. So, and then they also have more character. So the small ship will actually have a lot more character. Like you would be very careful being hit in the sail if you're just running a little Navy cutter, because it just have one mast, right? So there's a risk you get hit in the sails a lot and you're going to lose that mast, and then you're going to be floating around, kind of hard to do maneuvering then. But you see, I tried to put a lot of detail also into this smaller models. It's different amounts of detail, and these are also, some of them are older, some are newer. The Courier is one of the newest. You can see there I also bothered with putting in some crew. Here's my fingers, just so you can get an idea for scale. As you can see, the scale is quite small on these things, but it's very enjoyable actually. I almost enjoy this the most, making this unrated tiny vessels. It's nice and fiddly, and also they don't take much paint, right? You don't need to use a lot of paint when painting. But basically, I look at paintings of historical ships. I might end up throwing on. I'm talking this in before I'm really ready with the video. I might throw in some of the paintings that are free to use, that are like copyright free, that I can use, and then I'm going to throw them in here to show some of these ships what I was inspired by, the historical paintings that are mostly inspiration. Another one, and this is also a smaller ship, it's the HMS Cormorant, or the Rattlesnake as he was called from the beginning. I have a ship short on this ship. She was a privateer ship, an American privateer ship. It was taken by the British. But she is a small vessel, she's unrated, but as you can see she's free-masted, so it's a ship sloop, usually I think they're called. Correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes I get the terminology you remember, not English native speaking here. Mostly getting it right nowadays with the ensign and the pennant following each other. So before I could run a red ensign and then have the pennant another color, but as I talked about in one of my videos, the pennant video, I can't really base that fully. So nowadays if I want them on they're gonna be part of the red so the red squadron, because then I can just say they're on independent action with the red ensign, but then also they have the pennant to match for fleet actions and so on, and that would be probably the way it would be. I might be wrong. A sixth rate, so we're into the frigates and the sixth rate and the rated ships, and this is the Albemarle. I also did a ship short on this, so I'm not going to put so much time on the historical background, just focusing on the details here. One detail I really don't like, that I kind of screwed up on this one, is that I decided, oh yeah, I would like the figurehead to really show. So I picked one of those little bit bigger figureheads, which just looks totally out of scale, make it look like a toy or something. I feel like that is way too big of a figurehead, I think, for a small frigate like this. Probably once you've done it, bending it off might not do too well. Someone interested in this, give me a holler, right? This one would be probably up for grabs if someone finds it really nice. It's one of Nelson's ships, probably one that he learned a lot of stuff on. I also learned a lot of stuff on this. It's EZ line though, for the running rigging. As you see, it's really taut still, and then it's a thread for the standing rigging, most of it. Some of it might actually be wire, I think wire for the lower parts of the standing rigging there. On this one already to get that hang, or it's glued thread, could be glued thread as well, can't remember. But I learned a lot on the way, along the way, and this one is quite recent. Also this boats towing is something I started with, especially for the smaller ships. I mean, in a large fleet action I don't think they would be towing. Some of my third rates are towing, but then maybe they're in a single ship action, right? But this one is towing. The part I almost like the most with this model is the boats being towed there behind it. Also the way the ensign flutters. Maybe it wouldn't always flutter forward, but that is kind of the way I do my fleets, with them all forward. So I guess they would be, some of them would go sideways and everything, because you know the wind, and then there's the ship moving and so on. But you learn along the way. This is one of my older fifth rates. It's the HMS Amazon. Definitely need to make a new version of this. This is getting old. It's up for grabs. Someone interested. I used, I think, I used Warlord Mast for this one. I think I can't remember, or did I? I think they're Warlord Masts. Yeah, they are. So, and you can actually, if you want some of the yards turning and so on, they're quite bendable. The Warlord Mast, you can just actually twist them by yourself. I think I swapped out the lower sails here, the ones that are for Turner ones. So it's the mast is actually a Warlord mast, but then I use Turner models for the actual sails there. And then I made my own sails from paper. Maybe I didn't do too much detail on these sails. I would do more detail nowadays. And you see the rigging is a little crude. This is older stuff. Maybe someone would like this one. It's the Amazon. It's a famous ship. It's the one that fought the Trois de l'Homme together with the Indefatigable, right? So, and I haven't played that encounter yet, so maybe I should use it for that encounter. I made a scenario that we haven't gotten around to playing, because I haven't been able to play too much with my brother lately, and he is the one who has the French ship. So I really would like to do that with him. So I guess I hold on to this one until then, but then it's up for grabs, that one as well. This is another one of my favorites. It's a fifth rate, and it's also quite recent. It's the one I did for the encounter between the Shannon and the Chesapeake. So it's one of the more famous frigate duels of the War of 1812. And quite pleased with this one. Still, I mean, again, this is already, even if it's new, old, because I used for the running rigging, I used that EZ line that I was quite happy with before. It's actually painted EZ line. It was brown, but I wanted it white, so I painted the EZ line. But if I would do a detailed ship with crew, you see there's a crew on this one and everything now, I would definitely swap out that part for the brass. So another ship that eventually will probably be up for grabs if someone would be interested, because I end up doing new ones, and I actually gonna try a version. I have a friend that's looking into that and helping me to maybe print some of these little bit updated hulls, like more detailed hulls, but then also in scale 1 to 350 for a diorama. So I would really love to make a diorama of the Chesapeake and HMS Shannon at some point. But I did a lot of work, updates, got some tips from people, got the figurehead more like the historical Shannon and so on. There's some stuff like those, the sails and so on. It's a little bit better than I used to do them. Another fifth rate, but a very large fifth rate, is the Endymion. And as you might know from one of my previous videos here about the larger frigates and so on, one of my favorite frigates as well. We'll definitely redo this one. I'm getting an updated hull with some more details and so on, and I'll be doing this one again. Really like the rat lines and so on this. This is from the kit, the Constitution kit from Artist Hobby. Really hard to get nowadays, so building with that would make it a very expensive frigate, because I think that kit is like up to what, $80 or something, I'm not sure. Brass masts for this one. I built the mast myself. I used some 3D printed parts from Turner Models for the lower yards there, and also with royals and so on. Just trying to show a lot of speed, because this was a very fast frigate, right? So I wanted that showing in this. I'm pleased with this one. It's painted speculatively, like she might have been painted at some point. The were there in the War of 1812 on the American station. It seemed that there was some of them painted a little different than the norm for British frigates of the time. With this, you see, this one has this double buff lines, and then also on the side davits, I decided to put side davits on both sides just for fun, and also the rear davits. So it's just. It has boats all over the place. This one is sailing more than it's like fighting, even if it's running guns out here. Redoing this, I would probably use a bigger base and definitely having the boats towing. This is getting quite old. This is one of my first really detailed ones where I put in all the crew, and you've seen this probably if you followed my channel for a while. You've seen this one in a lot of videos. I end up using it as a heavy frigate quite often. Still very happy with this one. It is the HMS Cornwallis, and it's actually a converted Inyaman. Supposedly a horrible sailor, is what they say, also when I talked to James about it. But she did really well in the East Indies, like on her campaign there. She took a lot of prizes, if you follow the history, and did really well for herself, even though she was not a super good sailor. Heavily armed, very heavily armed ship with lots of really large carronades on the upper deck there. It's just like a spar deck. She doesn't have a forecastle or a poop or anything. She's just, it's called spar deck, right? Flush decked. Sometimes, today is obviously my day showing how inept I sometimes am with the words. I know I'm in Swedish mostly, but sometimes I don't know it in English. Still, it's a good ship. It's getting aged. I again used that kit, the Constitution kit, making it a very expensive build. Brass masts. One of the first times I built brass masts myself, so pretty crude for comparing to these days. Another model that needs updating, definitely. I can do this better nowadays. So another one that probably at some point, if someone interested, would be up for grabs, for sure. But it's still a really nice ship. Looks really nice on the table. Has that a little bit more heft, making it look like a large frigate. RSA, This is also featured in recent video. This is the Indefatigable, and this is I think this is also my third version of the Indefatigable. It's a hull, heavily modified, mind you, but it's a hull from Turner Miniatures, and I did a lot of changes to that hull to make it look the way I wanted to look. The rigging, the running rigging, you see this is a little bit older model, so the running rigging is, for me nowadays, very crude for a show piece like this, a piece that I really want to show off. She looks really nice on the table. All these models I think look really nice on the tables. Of course they're my own, so I would probably think so, but I think you guys will agree. Most people tend to like the way the miniatures I have look on the table. Again, too bad with the video here, it turned out a little bit too bright, so you don't really see the way the bases are not very well represented here. The hulls are fine, but the bases you're gonna have to look away from. Also, there's some, as you can see, I left some of the smoke effect. They leave some of those tiny hairs on these models that you don't see until after you filmed. I should really use my glasses when I'm touching this. This one is super famous for fighting Droits de l'Homme together with the Amazon that I showed earlier. And it's a Resé frigate. And this is another Resé, and it's also featured in a recent video. It's the 56 gun, used to be a 74 HMS Majestic, and proved to be a very effective ship, quite fast sailor actually. And I am not happy with this one. I would definitely, if someone is happy with it, I could consider also swapping this one. I need to redo this. This is the second version of this. There's some parts like the stern and the stern davits. I really like that. I'm actually inspired by some painting, historical painting of her. What I don't like, and I did completely wrong, is the actual figurehead. It's like a huge lion. I thought that looked really cool at the time. Now I think it looks a little cartoony. And also looking at some other drawing I found of HMS Majestic as a Resé, she actually had one of those billet heads. So it should be almost no figurehead at all. If that's painting is correct. Of course, we always have to watch out with paintings. I've updated the rigging on this one. I made it, and then the rigging was not good enough, and then I updated. Now I would redo that again. The rigging is not up to scratch. A lot of photo etch, little extra details. Is Resé, and Resés are some of my favorites. Third rates. So this is the first third rate I'm going to show, and that's the Noya. It's one of those lesser known third rates, I think. It's a capture. A lot of British ships were captured by from other nations, and this is actually a capture from the Danes. So it used to be a Danish third rate, and you can see that there's a ship short on this ship as well, I think, so you can get more of the historical detail. But it had those really tiny stern galleries, much smaller than the British and the French. I guess they didn't need as much space, the Danish captains. Pretty happy with the figurehead here. Tried to match the historical one that I could see on paintings. Of course, it's a little too large. Definitely way too large. Would do it smaller if I redid this ship. But doing them larger, and if you're fine with it and it's for fleet, you know, then at least it's going to show better. A lot of those little details I do. If you're just using it for your battles, it's not going to tell very much. As you saw, I was using warlord masts, and a lot of these third rates are warlord masts. This is one of my oldest one. This is the HMS Gibraltar. This is another capture. It's Spanish lines. It used to be the Spanish ship Phoenix, and really like it. It's an 80 gun third rate, a little bit larger third rate, a little bit wider. Really nice. The paintwork, I'm very pleased with it. I found a really nice off buff tone for it. I like making it look like a little bit of an older ship before they all got a little more standardized. The rigging is not up to scratch. It's old style. I think I just used thread for this one, and you see with time thread it kind of tends to, I mean, I would have to go over this with glue again and get it right. Should also point out that on a lot of these third rates, this one is right, but I messed up. I have the ensign one color and then the pennant another, and that's just inexperience and not knowing enough. I mean, I learn as you guys learn during the making of this. So if I do third rates now, then they'll definitely have the same color. And I'll probably go with the white, so it would be white ends and white pennant, so the white squadron. But a lot of nice little details on this one. I know Marcus did this one as well as the Phoenix. My friend Marcus, as the Phoenix, that's the Spanish ship. So, but there could be a lot of things updated on that. Here is a more recent third rate that I did when wanted to do a really large 6,000 point battle for Black Seas, and then I needed more third rates. I ended up getting rid of some of them again. I'm down to 8 third rates now again. I was up to 15 or something, but that's how it works. This is the Foudroyant, one of also Nelson's ships, and I completely scratch built, kind of rebuilt the figurehead. Again, a little bit too large to get the detail, but this one did have a quite large figurehead. There is some actual era or later when it was taken apart, drawings of that figurehead of the Foudroyant. A really nice big 80 gun third rate as well, one of those larger. And we do have our house rules for Black Seas. So if you end up wanting to try our house rules, which is in another video, then there is those stats for the larger third rates as well, like an 80 gun third rate, separating it from the 74. So if you would like some more definition, there's another gent as well that I've been talking to that has some other rules for this. We are going to try out at some point, but that will be later. Another one that's featured some in my videos, you see again, I've used just the standard Warlord masts for this one. I think for a fleet, you're fine. I mean, depending on how history buff you are and so on. I mean, of course, the yard arms, they go straight through, or they're like kind of attached to the masts. But I mean, it doesn't bother me too much for a model that's for a fleet. This has this little bit more non-standard paintwork. It is historical. It had a red oxide hull at some point. This definitely during the Nile. So, and I tried to give it some nice heel, you know, make it look, and also the yard arms tilted and so on. I think this is one of my better third rates as far as the structure go, how it looks. And the rigging is looking kind of okay. It's a painted EZ line, some thread. Of course, if I would do this one now, again, I probably can't go back, so I would have to do brass. Brass is so much work though, guys. Insane. So each ship takes longer and longer. So I'm very happy that I'm not playing too many fleet engagements nowadays because, you know, yeah, I just want my ships to be up to the latest standard, and that those take hours and hours to do. This is a little bit older, and you see I've messed up the pennant here and ensign. They're different colors. There's red and white, so it needs to be swapped out. This is the Ajax, I think. How do you say that in correct British? I'm not sure, but it's the Ajax, and it's your bog standard, not bog standard, but your standard 74. Had some painting where it I thought there was some bluish tones on the painting, basing it on painting, you know. It's all conjecture at that point, but it makes it stand out a little bit different, some more blues on it, make it like looking like a ship of its own, right? And here you see the sails is just standard Warlord game sails as well, third rate sails, those little bit more greenish ones. This is HMS Tremendous, and it's another 74. Also one of my newer ones. I mean, the older ones are with other people nowadays. So it's one that I really like, based off a painting of the Tremendous. I'll probably show it here. I'm not sure I'm going to end up showing as I'm recording this, just looking at the video. We will see. But the Tremendous, another 74, and the paint job is based on that historical painting of her. And that was quite common, where they had that tarring going a little bit higher on the hull earlier. Maybe it would be lamp black further up, I'm not sure. But you see, it has it's almost like a 50-50 hull. It makes it look stand out, like it looks quite dramatic that way, I think. And it's a mix. Again, I ended up using Turner miniatures for those lower yard arms, but the actual masts are Warlord games. So a combination, different makers here for the HMS. Tremendous. Another one, this is the Minden, also has some time on it. You see that I definitely would need to update the running rigging on this one if I end up keeping it. It is quite a nice hull. I really like the hull. I can't remember which I based it off, but it's the right class of hull for the Minden, the ship Minden. And the paintwork itself is based off a historical painting that I found of Minden. Yes, it's quite pleasing all around, this one, I think. Has some nice lines to it. Would I redo it? I'd probably be brass masts. Because I like building my own mast now, even though it's a lot of work. But for a fleet, if you're just going to use it for a fleet, using this standard Warlord third rate masts is fine. I mean, it looks fine, right? And if you look a little bit further away, you're not going to notice it. And all this crew and stuff I'm doing, don't get intimidated. I definitely don't think you need that for your fleets. If you're just running normal fleets, you're not going to see it. I mean, if I don't wear my glasses, I don't see any details when we're playing our battles. But I know they're there, and that makes me feel happy. So last of the third race here, and this is the Bellona. This is a little bit of a smaller 74, still a 74, but a smaller. I think they're called middling 74. So a little bit older, smaller hull, a little bit shorter. Wanted her to look a little bit like some painting I found of her, where there's a little bit more detail. Seems to be a little bit more of the gold and blue going, a little bit more detailing on the stern and so on, a little bit more of the red and the blue together. So I tried to get that in here for this, like almost like a mixed look between the new and the old, like the standardization and the old paintwork. Quite like this one. It's ended up, if I select a ship, just a single third rate for a battle, this one has a high probability ended up on the table. Even though the rigging is definitely not up to par anymore. It's thread, and the thread is sagging a bit and so on because it's an older ship. So this is the biggest ship in my fleet, and you see again there's parts of the, that might actually be a dog hair, to be honest, but anyway, some of that smoke effect ends up leaving traces on this. It's the Caledonia, and she's a very large ship. She's a 120 gun, built in 1808. And this one has some time on it. It was a while ago since I did this, and that can be seen in the rigging. The masts are actually from Meridian models. So the masts, the furled, half-furled, clewed sails there, and also the sails themselves are actually photo etch. So it's white metal and photo etch. Kind of fiddly working with. I didn't like it very much. I thought it was very hard to get a nice color, so I ended up just basically making them more or less white. There is some tint to them, but you can't really see it here in the video. Looks good on the table. This one looks pretty neat on the table. Definitely another ship I would like to redo, because I can do better these days. But maybe for someone's fleet, like a flagship, would be nice. The yak hanging there from the standing rigging, it happened. I read somewhere, but that's another one where I ended up removing that on all ships but this one. It just stuck there because I couldn't really rip it off without taking the rigging apart. I almost broke the rigging taking it off, so it got to stay. Has that paintwork that I saw on a painting of her, with the lines continuing out on the bow there, and the stern detailing and so on. Quite a nice ship. The base looks quite nice and so on. Last ship in the lineup, and this is not a model from the British fleet per se, and neither was the Acheron really. Acheron was a French ship, right? But this is an Indiaman, an 800 tonner. I do have a 500 tonner that I'm gonna make at some point as well. But yeah, I just wanted to show you. Of course, if you're going to do fleet battles, play Black Seas and so on, it's always nice to have some of those India men from Warlord Games or from Turner or somewhere, or the merchant men, so you can have those NPC ships or the ships that are getting hunted, or maybe heroically defending themselves. So I'm quite pleased with this one. I call it the Aubrey, which is in honor of the famous character in the books by Patrick O'Brien. So it's the Aubrey. Again, I can see some leftover from the smoke effects. Really need to look for that because it's always on there. So on to some of the things that I learned during these 3 years, maybe the more interesting part for most of you guys here. So this is the newest Surprise, and as you can see, I have those sails here, like so, and making them look like this. All of this is silk span. I prefer the look. It might not look as ordered and so on as if you would use a Turner 3D print for the lower yards, but life isn't orderly, I find. So making them a little bit messier like this, I really like. So here you can see my older version of the Surprise with those EZ lines and so on. Not as nice at all. Of course, fortunately, this one is going to be the one in my fleet for now, and maybe someone really likes this one, but I need a new one for my fleet. But if you like this one, just give a holler. You know, this is my second version of the Surprise. Hull is from Turner, a little bit photo etch details that I've added some crew for it. Was the Pride. I actually had this on a exhibition last year, won a silver advanced for her. I think, or was it at Cornwallis I won, and when maybe it was a bronze advanced. I'm not sure, but I won some advanced medal for it. I'm actually gonna use some new models this coming weekend, among them at the Acheron, and see if the judges there can see the improvements I made for a whole year. So the Surprise again and the Victory again, but new models. And then the Acheron is gonna end up there as well. Here you can see the running rigging. That's another one that I've really worked on and getting better. I've added more running rigging, trying to make it look more like on the larger models. Also the pennants are nowadays just a single sheet of copy paper that I paint, and I think they get that more airy look that way than if I have them double. A little bit more work to do them that way. The Victory, there's a lot of things I'm happy with on this model. Maybe with the papyrus sail, it all turned out a little bit too one tone buff, so redoing this I probably would do some more toning on the papyrus sail, or maybe I would use the silk span for those sails as well. But all the sails here is papyrus, so also the ones that are like furled and so on, they are papyrus. I made all the sails from papyrus, and that papyrus I found secondhand, but you can find it online. It's a natural material, so there's going to be some imperfections in it, so you're just going to have to cut the right pieces. But it keeps the shape really well, I feel, and it does look. This looks outstanding on the table. All the masts are scratch built. No, for this one, no. These are actually plastic masts that came with the kit. That's true. The masts here are plastic, but I've supported them, so the rigging is mostly brass wire to make it hold together better, so make it be better on the table, not break so easily. The bases, our main purpose with the bases, as you can see here, is to not touch the model itself, so you're touching the base. Some detail, this is the Courier, a little brig, and I just wanted to have it in here for scale, because these are like scaled to each other pretty well, I think, and you can see a small brig, why a small brig would not take on a first rate, right? Or if it's not obvious before, I think it's pretty obvious now, because the scale is just so different, and of course the caliber of guns and so on. You can see them here beside each other. That's the Victory, the Courier, and then there's the little lugger, and that's the Coureur, I think, the lugger. And I mean, this scale is for me bringing a lot of immersion to the games. It's one of the things that brings immersion, when the ships feel properly scaled to each other. Again, for a battle, if you don't care, if you're not as nerdy as me, I guess it wouldn't matter. But this is the way I do it. And again, these they showed in the last battle. Those are the Acheron and the Surprise again. And my next video is going to be me actually, for the little mini diorama there, I'm going to be doing new smoke effect. Of course, when I filmed this, I didn't think about it, but I ended up picking up the worst one of the ones we have, the old ones. They're getting a little bit used at this point, because we use them for a lot of battle. But really, if you get this on to your table, using it, it looks really well. I don't like it when you just have that effect where it turns on and off like Christmas lights. I think that looks horrid. Maybe some of you like it because it looks like the cannon's firing, but for me that's not, doesn't look good on photos and doesn't look good on video. I prefer it like this with the glimmer circuit. So that's what I have on those. I have a little battery pack, I have an on-off button hidden inside the smoke there, and then I have some glimmer effect. I think the battery is a little weak on this one as well. It's not glimmering as much as it's used to. So, but you see, with the smoke itself is just like pillow stuffing, and then I've spray painted with some gray, I think tiny bit of gray on this, and then with black primer basically, and then just pulling it apart a little bit to make it look like that there's some of that smoke being darker from the cannon, but also some of it lighter and so on. And unfortunately, the video I took here, I'm not going to retake the entire video, because I guess the green screen was reflecting. I had to like try to remove that. I had a green screen in here, as you can see. I removed it. It was not entirely successful. You know, I'm amateurish video creator, so I'm trying to learn along the way. So I think the footage here, the light was a little too strong, and the cast of the backdrop made the things not look as good as they do on the table. And for showing off my fleet, maybe I should have just done it better and showed it off better, more. But you'll see the details at least, and the colors on the models are not too far off from reality anyway. And if you know yourself, if you're playing these games and doing scale 100 scale models, when you look close, they look a little bit messy, right? Because it's really tiny. Rice paper, great. These are really good to have on your table. Another immersion, but also like an obstacle. A ship seldom exploded or sunk. They would strike their colors and hang around, or they would be wrecked. Like this one, but still be they didn't sink, would be a wreck floating around and being in the way. So we have quite a few of these in our box, just to use in the battles, so that we'll have wrecks floating around, and we just remove a wreck if the wind does some changing at that point. But until then, they're still in there. You can see it just adds a lot of immersion. So maybe you have a dual between third rates, and then one gets shot out, and then you leave that in there. And then a final review of the fleet, which is at this point not so large. As I said, I ended up getting rid of a lot of the ships. Some of them that are in there still are, of course, some of my favorite ships. I am very partial to frigates. I need more frigates. I need to make some more frigates for myself as well. I end up doing mostly for other people now these days, which is also a lot of fun, and I get a lot of ideas that way. But quite a small fleet at this point. 2 first rates, 8 third rates, a couple of larger frigates, some smaller frigates, a couple of unrated, and that's my whole fleet basically. So I hope you enjoyed this 2025 version of the fleet lineup, and some of the things I feel like I've learned along the way. Is there anything you want to know more about? Then just post in the comments below. Any of the models you're more interested in, just give me on Facebook a holler, or here in the comments below. I've opened up a little bit of a store with some of the designs I made. I can make some drawings as well, put it on some t-shirts for the store, for the like a store here connected to the channel. So if you feel like supporting me another way, and you would like something with some something I made, like a ship drawing, and please check that store out. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. It helps me. This is quite a big hobby for me now, and I enjoy doing these videos, and by being by having more subscribers, it makes it easier, right? Because yeah, that's the way it works on YouTube, you know. Yeah, and the next one would probably be me making smoke. Won't be a very long video. I know I've said that forever. That's probably the video I promised the longest, and I never did fully. I did a short on it, but now I will do a full video. It probably will be very short anyway, 10 minutes or so. But I just show you how you can make that smoke effect yourself with the glimmer circuit and the tiny micro LEDs. And of course some more battle reports is coming up, and a really detailed build. I promised some gent here on the channel, so I'm gonna make some really detailed another French frigate and a British frigate in 1/700 scale, and I'm gonna film the whole thing. So it's gonna be one of those speed runs, so you can see what I do all the way through, and I'll talk you through it as well, because I tend to gloss over some stuff, or I take some stuff for granted maybe, and then I get questions about it. So I'll try to slow down and really walk everyone through the whole process in the next one. But until then, I wish you fair winds.